Thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We're back with your favorite podcast, Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze. Oh my.
Let's get ready to rumble.
That's good. That? That's your favorite celebrity voice. Let's get ready to rumble.
That guy made a killing on like a separate.
Ready to rumble.
You know his brother. So you have Michael Buffer, you have Bruce Buffer, who is the voice of the UFC. He has his own tagline. It's time. That's what he says before they start off a pay-per-view. It's time. And trust me, there's merch. I've seen It's Time hats, and he wears some crazy outfits. Look it up online. Bruce Buffer's tuxedos. That's
my patriotism. That's why I love America. If you have a desire and a dream, you could go get it. Luca Nation, we're back with the weekly Q&A with Cage. Coffee with Cage.
That's it.
Jump into any of these amazing questions, and I'm going to start with a question from Ian's card coloring.
Oh my God, Ian's card coloring. I wonder who that could be.
Ian.
What's his question? Can I stay up late tonight? What kind of question is
the GOAT of baseball? He said.
Who do I think is the GOAT of baseball? Wow, I'm going to get stumped by my son here. That's a great question. It's really a great question. And you know what? It goes to the heart of the GOAT discussion, right? Because the GOAT really, G should be for generational, not greatest. Because I think really that GOAT question gets narrowed down into the greatest of that generation. Because the style of play, the game itself it changes over generations, right? So people today can make an argument that Mike Trout might eventually end up being the GOAT. People before me were all on Mickey Mantle. All Mantle. When I played, I loved Griffey. But Griffey had a great peak and never completely panned out. He moved over to Cincinnati, and his numbers kind of, curtailed. They kind of fell off a little bit. He wasn't healthy. That is a great question. I think I would have to go with Mickey Mantle just based on overall GOAT numbers, right? The home runs that he hit, the championships that he won, team accomplishments, personal accomplishments, and it's a shame because he did not last as long as he probably could have lasted in the league because of injuries. So that's where I'm going. If we're taking steroids out of the equation, if we're just going to look at overall stats and flatten out the line, we're taking performance enhancements out of the equation, you can make an argument that Barry Bonds was the greatest ball player to ever play because he kind of.
Are you feeling a Fauci right now? Are you flattening the curve?
I'm flattening the curve. Yes, I'm flattening the curve. But yeah, I mean, if you did that, yeah, I mean, Bonds. I've watched a lot of baseball in 5 different decades, and I've never seen anybody like Bonds. Where basically, I'm telling you, it was a World Series game, right? Where the opposing manager walked him with the bases loaded and a 2-run lead and put him on base, basically put the tying runner on third. And it worked out for them. But that was the kind of feared hitter he was. So, he assaulted the record books, and a lot of people put, as many asterisks as you can find next to his records. But, Bonds, you could say he was. That's the best I ever saw, actually step up to the plate and play baseball.
Guys, and I'm going to keep getting into these. We're so grateful that you guys send these questions. And it doesn't just have to be questions. It could be questions, statements, topics, things that you want us to cover that you think are in the culture, in the zeitgeist, in sports that are relevant to today. So this is a good one. Dan Note that. I hope I pronounced that right.
The DMN takeover, our friend.
Yes, I love this question. If you had to start from zero again in the hobby, what would be your first move?
Wow. If I had to start from zero, like I was coming in never buying cards ever. This is, believe it or not, this will probably be the easiest question that I get all day because I'm going to answer it with a real cop-out. If I was starting over from scratch, the first thing that I would do, my first move was the question, it would be to put my wallet in a drawer and lock it and not spend $1 on anything until I did at least 50 hours of research. That would be my first move. And this is, like I said, it's a cop-out, but it really is my message to everybody out there. Don't just jump into this, especially with the hobby the way it is now. There is way too much stuff out there for you to get spread so thin, right? Whether it's by sport, by player, by type of card, whether or not you're going to be buying raw, buying grading, what grading company. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that you can really get stretched way too thin, way too soon, and burn yourself out on the hobby. So the first answer to that one is do your research. And that same answer should apply to people who are in the hobby for a decade or 20 years, like myself. Before I dive into something, and I dive in heavy, but when I dive into something...
Pete Alonso, I think you bought like 77 of them in a 12-hour period.
I did. I bought, in one 12-hour period, I bought 77 Pete Alonso PSA 10 rookie cards. And that was like half of what I had at the peak. So, but yes, but I do research on it. And there was so much free data out there for everybody, right? eBay completed listings is the greatest thing in the world. And 2020, look, we can all shit on 2020. But one great thing that 2020 brought for us is an explosion in this hobby, an explosion of great data, content, podcasts, websites. We've had some of the greatest folks on here ourselves, from Card Ladder to PWCC to the Twitter guys that we had who are in groups, to Adam Lefko, exactly, any of these guys. I mean, there Card Ladder. I'm gonna, stacking slabs. Like
Jeremy
I can name
getting
Jeremy. I mean,
I think he rightfully deserves. He's been with Pokemon for like 15, 16 years, probably longer.
I mean, listen, I'm leaving people out, and I apologize for that. But basically, the wealth of knowledge that's out there, to give you free access to card data, really is an amazing amount of stuff. You really have no excuse other than to do your due diligence. You got to go out there and you got to do your research and you got to figure it out. And then
Dan has a part two, but I want to touch on it's Coffee with Cage, but I just want to layer on a little AG here. I love this book. I think it was Living with the Monks or How to Live Like a Monk by Jesse Itzler. I think it's Living with the Monks. And there's just one point in time where, every monk has duty around the kitchen. Stay with me. And Jesse's
I'm with you.
was to wash all of the dishes. There was like 500 dishes to wash. And he was like, God, he was like saying, I'm going to be here all night. Like, what's going on? And the monk gave him this reply. He said, you're not washing 500 dishes. You're washing the dish that's in front of you. So why do I say that? If I was starting back from the hobby, I would focus on my first win. That's all. What card, what player do you think is going to be a winner? And go to research and go to work on that one. And I believe in the power of momentum. And I think if you're always focusing on the next one, you're going to get the result that you're looking for.
I love it. But before you get to the second part, just because I gave a cop-out answer, I love the dish analogy. My son is just dying laughing because he said the word duty like 11 times. But besides that, the easy answer to this is, on top of due diligence, it's sports. It's sports cards, right? Watch games. You said this. We had Rips on who said this about Giannis. There are so much footage out there. You can watch Giannis. If you want to buy one of these guys who's in the draft now, it's difficult to find footage on him. But if you are going to buy into LaMelo Ball because he's going to be drafted in the top 3 this week coming up, you can find game footage of him. Go on YouTube and watch his stuff. So I mean, Lithuania, yeah. I mean, you got to watch his games, and it's not just him, it's everyone, watch baseball, watch the sport, and with today, the way we consume this stuff, especially the NBA, I mean, you could watch, somebody's whole season in a 15-minute highlight video. There's such great content out there, and I got a lot of comments out there, a couple weeks ago, I talked about my love for Devontae Graham and that you guys should go watch some of the film on him. And I got so many people saying, wow, he really had a good season. I was able to watch, his whole season in a 20-minute YouTube highlight clip. It really is that easy. So yeah, watch the games, know what you're buying. You wouldn't be buying stock in something if you didn't know the company and research it through and through. Treat this stuff the same way.
I think the feeling is when you're entering a hobby or you're entering something like this, more than likely one of your friends who's made some big plays or made some money is telling you about the hobby. So it's easy to come in and get big eyes, you want it all. And you get in this pattern of chasing your tail. And I think it's really important to put those blinders on and focus on getting yourself a W. Dan asked a part 2 of this question from a flipping mindset. Does it change your answer at all? You're on mute, King Lawyer.
So from a flipping mindset, the only thing that I would change from my answer is you have to focus your research on how you're going to flip, right? I mean, there are people out there who make a killing in arbitrage between eBay and Amazon, right? So you have to find what works for you in the hobby. And I will tell you from a flipping mindset, it's most likely finding something that you can buy raw and grade cheap and sell. Find a way to do it from a flipping perspective, right? Find your thing, find what works for you, and try to find something that not everybody's jumped on yet. That's a real fun one, right? Don't ride the bandwagon. Somebody told me this morning. I got a message from someone on Instagram, and they said, "Hey, I'm thinking about moving my LeBron 2003 rookie BGS 9.5. What do you think?" And I said, "I would move it now." And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because LeBron stuff has kind of gone down a little bit." And he said, "Well, why do you think that is? Why do you think the LeBron is not? I mean, he just won a championship. He just won his fourth championship. Like, he had a great season. He carried that team. Why do you think it would make it go down?" And I said, "Because everybody had the exact same idea you had." I mean, it's almost like tough love. I felt bad, typing it. I said, every single person in the hobby said, "Let's buy LeBron now because when he wins the championship, I'll sell the card." It wasn't, "Let's buy the card because when LeBron wins the championship, that's going to make me want to hold the card even longer and be a long-term investor of LeBron so that the card would go up." It was, "I'm going to buy this so that when he wins the championship, I'm going to sell it." Well, guess what? That means there's more supply out there than demand. And if everybody has the same idea of buy it so that I can sell, then everyone's going to be rushing to sell, and you're not going to make any money. So you got to find something that's not that. Don't ride with the herd on these things. From a flipping perspective, a lot of people had a great idea earlier on this year of buying the first optic and selling that. Grade that and flip it. I didn't get it myself, but there was a lot of money to be had there. That was somebody's idea. People out there are always with ideas of his first card in the Laker jersey, LeBron, and it took off for a little while. You got to find your own one of those, right? So that's it. Do a little research and figure it out. Go ahead.
Two things. I was one of those people that bought the LeBron. You know that. And I love that. I love that part of capitalism and competition. When you're wrong, you're just wrong. And it's kind of fun. It's kind of exciting. I bought the LeBron Chrome at its high, and I'm actually auctioning it off right now. And I'll tell you why. It's not a card I'm passionate about. It's not a card I love. I was in it because I wanted to make a gamble on LeBron winning the title, and I was under the impression that the title would cause an increase in price. I was wrong, and it's a card that I don't love. I don't love LeBron, and I never have, and I don't like the card. So, very good point. Very good stuff. And just to add to that, and I'll keep going, the flipping thing, I'm a big quick flip fan. Like, if you're buying your first card, I would already buy it with the idea to 5-day it or 20-day it, at least get it back pretty quickly. Because while it's being graded, you could also start buying 45-day cards. Because it's really important to get that first cash flow back in. This is a great question by Drake Sports PC. Actually, I'm going to come back to this because we're on some topic.
You want to save it? I like it.
Yeah. Worth selling my expensive Laker LeBron card before the season starts, or should we wait? Tough because we don't know the card or the market, but you want to say.
Well, listen, so a question like that, no matter which one it is, right? If you have a Lakers LeBron card,
LeBron, it has
expensive. Right? I mean, it was an RPA, whatever. It really just that depends on you, right? And this I'll answer this question. If it's anything, right? We got basketball season starting, right? And it's you have an expensive Lakers LeBron card. Should you sell it now or should you hold on to it for the season? You have an expensive Giannis card. Should you sell it now or hold on for the season? Expensive Luka. Should you sell it now? Hold on for the season. It's the same answer. It's going to be it depends on what you want to do with it, right? I can tell you that there is an entire sector of people in this hobby. And one of the things we talked about, right, is find what works for you from a flipping perspective. There's an entire sector of people in this hobby who rely on this data that year over year, if you buy in the off season or you buy at the end of the season and hold and sell right before the next season starts, you will ride a wave of you're buying low and selling high. It happened. We've talked about it ourselves on this podcast. A month ago, I was offered 5 tray PSA 10 rookie cards at $400 each, and I passed on them because they were available on eBay for $385. Well, now they're close to $600 again. right? They're 5 and change. So there's a whole segment of people out there who they don't care right now whether Trey is going to do well this year or not. They're going to sell his cards now because they bought him a month or two ago for 50% or 30% less than what they're selling for now. And those people they run the risk of losing out on some profit. If Trey goes out there in the first month and is averaging 40 points and 10 assists per game, could they have sold that card for $800? Sure. But
That's
the risk there.
By the way,
What?
that's not risk. By the way,
No, but I'm telling you the risk. But the flip side to the risk is they're taking the risk out of it, because just as easily as Trey could drop 40 and 10 for a month, he could also hurt his ankle in the first week. I hope he doesn't, because I got a lot of his cards. But he'd also hurt his ankle in the first week, and then the card goes down. And then it's 350 like what they paid for it a month ago. So what they're doing is they're actually taking some of the risk out of the hobby. They're let's say they're cutting their risk, right? If you don't want to be. So I have the same answer for you with a LeBron. All right. If you want to take some money off the table, it also depends where you bought it. If you bought it that expensive LeBron higher than where it is now, don't sell. Don't sell at a loss. Buying high and selling low is never a good recipe for anything in life. I've done it myself a couple of times, and it never really works out well. Buying low and selling high is the way we're supposed to be doing it, right? So, if you can make profit on the card and you don't love it and you want to take the risk out of the equation that LeBron either gets injured this year, that he starts to tail off, that his team is not going to play well, that the worry
down in value, and
or that it's or it's just going to go down even though he won a championship. If you want to take that money off the table and end your risk now and cash out, go right ahead. Especially if you think there's going to be the ability for you to deploy that capital elsewhere. And that's something Andrew talks about with me and something I'm learning from him. He calls it dead money. There's nothing wrong with a LeBron card. But if you think right now that Fernando Tatis's cards have come down too much because everybody's looking the other direction and nobody's looking at baseball, and you want to sell your LeBron card for $10,000 and deploy that into very inexpensive Fernando Tatis PSA 10s that you can sell in 3 months before the baseball season starts for double, well, then guess what? That's a better way of deploying that $10,000 than having it sit in a LeBron card that might not go up and might actually go down. So it's another thing. There's many layers of that question. It really depends on what you want to do with it, right? You want to hold that card and have it forever, then don't sell it. You want to take that money off the table and deploy it somewhere else in the hobby or pay your bills with it or whatever, then please, by all means, sell it, especially if you're selling it at a profit.
Take a listen to or take a read in to Ray Dalio's book called Principles. He talks about having investment criteria up front when buying and selling. So you know exactly, if it hits this price, I buy, I sell. If I hits this price, I sell.
You know who must love that? Our friend Bro Namath, who a lot of you guys know, we had on as a guest, and he's a great follow. Also, if you don't follow him, check out his page. Very helpful guy in the hobby. He still owes me some education on Dragon Ball Z. Just one of those few things and cards that I never got into, and I'd love to learn a little bit about. But he said the same thing on our episode, and he I say to him, hey, should I sell this card? And he's like, yeah, how much, what's the multiple? How much have you made on it? If you sold it now, it's 5 times. He's like, yeah, that you have to do that in the beginning. If you say, I'm putting $100 in this card, and when it goes to 300, I'm selling it, then you can't at 300 turn around and say, I think it's going to go to 5. You set a goal and do it. I need to get better at that myself.
It's frankly just a skill. When you say it's just adding a thing to your repertoire. Anyway, PSA 10 grader. Opinions on a PSA 8 market for Luka. People will be priced out of anything PSA 9. This is a really interesting question.
So it depends on the card, right? It really does depend on the card, right? And the person's name is PSA grader. That's the PSA 10 grader. I like it. So if I'm
about PSA 8s,
if I'm being as honest as I can about this, I don't see a huge market for PSA 8s for anyone, especially somebody like Luka. I think that really PSA, it's a genius thing because it's creating a scarcity where otherwise cards are not scarce. And what I've noticed is that there is a premium put on raw cards for PSA 9s and obviously for PSA 10s, but the PSA 9s have started to slightly go up from raw. And it depends on the card too. Sometimes you buy a PSA 9 for the same price as raw, in some ridiculous situations, I've seen PSA 9 sell for less than raws because people would rather buy the raw and have the gamble on the shot that it might be a PSA 10. Very rarely do I see a PSA 8 that sells for more than a raw card. All right, which could that change? Maybe. I doubt it. I know a whole segment of people that when they get PSA 8s, they crack them out and sell them as raw, which is interesting thing of doing. But basically, what that's telling you is that you're better off. You're going to get more money for your card as a raw card than slabbed as a PSA 8. With that as the backdrop, I don't think there's really ever going to be a market for PSA 8s. I think instead what people will do if they're priced out of a PSA 10 or a 9 for a Luka Prism is they're going to look for a PSA 10 of a Luka Optic. And if they get priced out of a PSA 10 for Luka Optic, go to PSA 9 for Luka Optic. Get priced out of that, they're going to look for other cards of Luka like Hoops or Revolution or some of the other brands in that 10 rather than looking for a PSA 8 of a card. That's just my take.
PSA 8 Lukas are going for 250 to 350. I'm pretty sure the wall card is right around 650. So just buy the 8 and you crack it out would be the play in my opinion.
Listen, I've thought about that as an arbitrage play, but I just can't bring myself to do it. I don't want to do that to people. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be buying 8s, cracking them out, and telling people, hey, it's a raw card that I pulled out of a pack, because it's just, first of all, it's a fraud. Second of all, it's just not my speed. Because I know why people are buying raw cards. They're buying raw cards in the hope that they're getting 10s and at worst 9s. And I don't want to sell it raw if I already know it was an 8, even though a card that's an 8, you send it in and grade it again, it may very well get a 9. So, we have seen it ourselves. We both have 5s that if we regrade are going to get 9s and 10s. So
it's blurry, it's fuzzy. Karma is real. I'll leave it like that. Drake's cards. Drake Sports PC, sorry. What 3 to 5 cards, no matter the grade, should all collectors have in their collection?
Wow.
Cards, so to speak.
Wow. I can't do them. I would do a Mount Rushmore by sport, but the Mount Rushmore cards for me, if you're going to do like one by sport, right? So I mean, I like the Michael Jordan rookie from '86 Fleer, although some of our younger folks would say, right behind him.
You're not going to go original on this, huh? You're going to go right down the middle.
No, I mean, my Mount Rushmore sports cards, that's 100% it. Baseball's your mantle, and you got your '86 Fleer, and you got your Gretzky rookie card for hockey, and football is where it might actually get a little interesting. I probably go with Joe Montana rookie card for football, but you tell me you want a Walter Payton in there, or you tell me you want to go, even back further and throw, Jim Brown in there. That's fine too. If you want to go modern Mount Rushmore, what card should any collector have in there? Here, I'm going to take it a different way. He didn't say Mount Rushmore, and that brings its own thing. So what card should any collector have in their collection at any grade, right? If you're in collecting now, there are cards that I think signify that you are a serious collector, okay? And one of those, I think, is the Mike Trout update rookie card, okay? I think if you're a baseball collector, that is the card in some form that people will say, that's the card to have. If you can afford it, go for a Bowman auto. Oh, great. That's fine. But that Mike Trout update rookie is still attainable, especially in, 8 and 9 grade, raw, you name it. You want to get nuts, the diamond or the gold are amazing cards. That's more of a modern baseball card. If you're asking me about, and we can drop it down here for our listeners, you're asking me about a card that I think everyone should own that is attainable for collectors today. You guys have heard me talk about this before, but I got one for you, and I still think it's undervalued. And I'll put the SEC warning on this already. It is a card that I own more of than any human being should own, but I'm going to buy more. And if it stays in the price range that it's at, and I still anticipate this going up. It bucks the trend because it's a pitcher, but I am a huge fan of the 1992 Bowman Mariano Rivera rookie. It's one of those 20 cards that was in the Project 2020. It's the only unanimous Baseball Hall of Famer ever. And it's still attainable because it's a card that is still in the $500 or $600 range. I can tell you guys that I have bought so many of these cards myself. That is a huge card for people who know anything about baseball for the last 20 years. Like I said, the only unanimous Hall of Famer. I think that's a steal for where it is. I think the Barry Sanders 89 score falls into that same exact category. I think that is underpriced. I think everybody who collects cards and knows who Barry Sanders is should own that. But now I'm going back to the 80s and 90s stuff. Let's see, basketball in that same vein. Jordan rookie card is clearly, you're talking about in the 80s. You want to go into the 90s, a Kobe rookie card, you have a million of those. I could let you pick a Kobe rookie card that's attainable. Shaq rookies are undervalued if you compare their population to the ones of like Luka now. So I gave you your Mantle and those guys. Now I'm giving you your 80s, 90s, which we would still consider vintage. Modern, I have one Luka base PSA 10, and I'm not going to sell it. I don't care if he breaks his ankle this year. I don't care what happens. I'm not going to sell it because I think that is an iconic card. That is one of those things that it signals to me kind of the rebirth of this hobby, this go round. It's on Luka's back. Same thing. I'm going to keep his eye on Prism PSA 10 forever because these are the guys that for the last 2 years have carried this hobby. They're the Shaq, they're the Jordan, they're they're those guys. I hope I did a decent enough job of answering that question. For I did a Mount Rushmore, but cards that any collector should own. It's difficult, man.
Lacked originality, so I'll say
it lacked originality. Okay.
Yeah, so Luka Prism Gold or Luka Prism Black Gold, number 1. Number 2, the Giannis Logo Man. Number 3.
Yeah, that anyone should own. Exactly. The 101 of all of those. You're never going to be. That's
Number 3, the Kobe Flawless 1/1 logo.
Yeah.
Number 4, the Kobe Refractor, Topps Chrome, no greenings. And then the LeBron, Kobe, Jordan. If they have a Logo Man, I'm not sure between the 3 of them, but the 3 auto. There's your guys what you should have. No baseball, no
baseball.
And the Jim Brown rookie PSA 10.
A PSA 10, of course, yeah, but I don't even know if there are any. Let me throw this one out there. I love the question, but one of the things we preach here, both Andrew and myself, and a lot of our guests also, is buy what you love. So it's tough for us to say, what should every person who's in the hobby have? Because what makes this awesome, what makes this a great hobby, what will make you as a new person stay in the hobby, is you should really buy what you love, and your collection should.
You didn't even bring up wrestling or Pokemon cards in those 3.
Yeah. Charizard doesn't get a place on the Mount Rushmore, but the point is,
about a Ric Flair, right? Or
Ric Flair. It depends what you like, right? There are Pokemon people who could not care less about Babe Ruth. And there are baseball people who couldn't care less about Jim Brown. So, in reality, everybody should have their own Mount Rushmore in their own collection. So buy what you love, and and by the same token, set some goals for yourself while you're doing this. One of the things we also try to talk about is building up towards something, right? And maybe the Kobe Flawless 101 is not what you built up for, but maybe you do want to get whatever guy you like. Whether it's Trey, maybe you want to get a Trey, Prism rookie out of 199. Maybe you want a blue or a red or 299, 199. Maybe you start with buying some base cards and you trade up to a silver, and maybe you get a couple of silvers and you trade up to that color card. You can change that. You can have a Mount Rushmore goal on your, of your cards as well. So again, hope we answered. We answered it 14 different ways, but
Oliver asks, favorite Kobe cards.
Oh yeah, I should let you answer that. My favorite Kobe cards. So right off the bat, you're gonna get tired of me saying this stuff. My favorite Kobe card is one that I could have and should have bought. It was on eBay for a long time, and somebody scooped it up last year. If you're listening to this, you're a very smart person. It was for $5,000, but it was a Jambalaya PSA 10, which if you know anything about those cards, it was I think it's his rookie year. It's 96. Jambalaya card. That's those round ones that I told you about, the die cut ones that are very hard to grade. They're impossible in PSA 10. They have an 03 LeBron one, which is sick. Jordan has one. I have one of Carmelo from his rookie year in 03 in PSA 10. Those cards are just really colorful and cool cards out there. One of the cooler ones out there. And Kobe, it's a rookie year one for him. So that's one. His Topps Chrome with no greening in PSA 10 is a card that I I hate to admit that I don't have in my collection. And it's one that, you want to talk about your Mount Rushmore, what everyone should have. I will one day own that card, probably sooner than later, because it's a glaring hole in my collection to not have that. Love that card. If I'm picking one for any collector to buy and get in PSA 9, my co-host here has he's put it in my brain so that it's stuck in there. The Fleer Ultra, his Fleer Ultra rookie card in PSA 9. Why I say PSA 9 is because PSA 10 is almost impossible to get. It's a very difficult card to grade, but there are a lot of PSA 9s out there. So the multiple on 9 to 10 is like 20 to 1, right? Mm-hmm. The 9 becomes a I don't want to call it inexpensive, but a very attainable card. And it's a really cool card. And a 9 is still a mint card of one of the greatest to ever play the game, rookie card. And I think if someone was asking me, hey, I don't have a ton of money, but I want to go out there and get a Kobe rookie, I'll tell you to go buy a Fleer Ultra in PSA 9. How'd I do, Kobe fan?
You did amazing. I'm sending you 6 PSA 9s for our next sub to crack and send 45 day to see if I could get a 10. Okay. The Stargate, the Kobe X2000 is a gorgeous card. So Kobe Stargate is a gorgeous card. It's I think is it an insert cage? Do you know? Do you know this?
I don't know.
Stargate 2000. Love that card. The Kobe Stardate 2000. That's one. There's another one. It's the Kobe. I think it's called. Let me find it here. It's the Credentials.
That's a nice card.
Beautiful card. It's got like this skyline in the back, the clouds. Then there's these, and these are up to you guys. Kobe Flair Showcase. These were Fleer cards. I think there's a row 0, a row 1, and a row 2.
Yep.
Gorgeous card. I love the Kobe Molten cards. You don't see them a lot, but they're really, really interesting cards. I think they're a skybox card with like an M on it. They have like these illustrations on them, which is gorgeous. And then I think any Kobe collector at this point needs to have autos. And this, I like exquisite autos. Some people like Panini autos, but I love the 3-color patch, whether that's exquisite or Panini patch auto of Kobe. I think those are the ones. And then the Fleer, I do agree. I really believe that other than the Chrome, the Fleer Kobe is the best card in a PSA 10. It's just such a grade.
There you go. So I did good.
You did amazing. Matt Fan 45. Okay, you gave the play the Abreu draft picks card, right?
Yep. Yes, I did.
He's asking, how would you suggest listing a card like that?
It depends, right? I mean, those cards are available for, when we recommended them, they were $1 card because no one knew who they were. I don't know whether or not they're going to go up tremendously. I will tell you, I've learned a lot in the last year of this hobby about the promotion of a sport and a team and how that impacts the collector's habits. And I bet you that so many of our listeners out there don't even know that the MVP was announced this week. I mean, what is the MLB doing? I have hardcore baseball fans who told me, oh, yeah, Abreu, you were right on him. They texted me, you were right on Abreu. And I'm like, who won the NL? And they're like, they don't announce the NL today, do they? Don't they do it every other day? And I'm like, no, I just looked it up. Freeman won. So people who were actually paying attention so that they could tell me that Abreu won didn't even know that they also announced the NL. This week they've announced the Rookies of the Year. They've done the Manager of the Year. They did the Cy Young Award winner, and they did the MVPs all this week. And you know what? Nobody cared. And so I've learned that. What's up?
No one knew.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really is just, and I'm hoping it's because it was a short season. I'm hoping because baseball just kind of mailed it in this year. Most collectors my age will call it baseball cards, no matter what sport the card is. They call it baseball cards. Hey, you collect baseball cards? That's the way it was, but not sports cards, baseball cards. This trend is changing, right? I mean, it definitely is. So I'm getting off on a little bit of a tangent here about baseball cards because I'm learning that baseball better do a better job of promoting their game, figuring out a way to get those highlights and their young stars in the view of people who are spending money. Otherwise, that sport is going to really lose out, and the cards will suffer because of it as well, which is sad. But so the Abreu one, it depends. If you have a bunch of them, I would sell them in a lot. I would sell a lot of 10. I'd put them up there. And also, if you paid $1, so you're into it for $10, you put the lot of 10 up there for $50 or $60 or $70, whatever it is, and, or best offer, and you see what they get. Now, that said, I would take a good look at them because these are now just modern, and you can grade those for, $10, $15, depending on what kind of grading, fee or how quickly you want to get the turnaround on them. I would send a couple in for grading because a PSA 10 on it might actually get you some real good profit. But yeah, I mean, it really does depend how many. I wouldn't go selling one of them for $1 or $2 or $3. I try to get some money on, especially, but I would try to capitalize on it right now. The guy won the MVP. I'd put MVP right in the title of the listing. Make sure you got that on there. And, by listing 10 of them, you're going to probably find somebody who wants to grade a couple of them, and they're going to buy your 10 and pull out the best couple, send them into PSA and make money themselves. So that would be how I would list them.
I love it. Or if you look over them and they look nice, put grade worthy or PSA 10 in the, or don't put PSA 10, just put grade worthy. Never Sub is another one you could write in the description. Which Yam asks, I love Yam. He used the word confounds in this.
Confounds. I love good questions. But before we get to his question, if you guys haven't looked yet, Yam Wax is the guy's name. Yam Wax. He put up a really awesome Pokemon comparison to different sports cards throughout the years. If you haven't checked that out yet, it's one of his recent posts on his page. Take a look at that. It's pretty cool, comparing Charizard to a specific Charizard to like the 1986 Michael Jordan and Babe Ruth Charizard. It's the top son. It's just an interesting. Cool comparison. Nice little content. Nice job, Yam.
You're confounded by Pokemon Mark. You go to Yam's page. I had to look up what confounds means, but it means it's surprises. Which sports cards relatively high value confounds you the most right now?
Confounds you the most. So what for those of us who do not have a dictionary brain here, what Yam is asking is there a card out there that is expensive that I don't think should be that expensive, that confuses me, vexes me, makes me think, wow, what's going on with that card? Why is that so much? And, it's funny, during the year, I would have said anything Michael Porter. But I think I came on here and I said Michael Porter. I couldn't believe the card values were there. So high value. What cards high value confounds me? I would have told you a lot of things recently, confused me, but a lot of cards have pulled back to where there's no glaring like, wow, I can't believe that card is that high. Let's pick one.
I got one.
Okay, good.
What surprises me the most is how I'm going to use this word specifically, expensive second, third, and fourth tier players are relative to stars.
Okay. I like that. So I'll give you a couple of answers. Number one, the price, the most expensive thing that confounds me the most is the price that our market is willing to pay for retail blasters. All right. So this is, I'm going to call it a complaint, right?
I got to get the white sparkle. What do you mean?
Well, no. So, and it's green usually, but like a mosaic blaster that's supposed to be available for people for $19.99 in Target or Walmart that you never actually get in Target or Walmart should not be something that gets broken for $75. Okay, it's one of those things that, call it a pet peeve of mine, call it something that confounds me. If somebody's paying $75 for that box, that's the market price, and I'm not going to get on any breaker for it. If you can get that price, go ahead and get it. That's what the market is telling you to pay. Here's why it's dangerous and it confounds me. Here's why it's dangerous and it upsets me. It's probably the better word. There are people who are willing to buy those boxes at Target. And you know what? Maybe they're $35 or $40, on the secondary market. And when they open it up and they get garbage in it, no real hit, no real nothing of value. All right, you know what? I paid $20 for it. It's fine. I'll do better on the next one. You start $75 for these things. it almost becomes impossible to get value back. And it really does become gambling. It just becomes like anything else. It's like buying a scratch-off lotto ticket. Take a lot of the fun out of it. Take a lot of the, oh, wow, at least I got this guy. At least I got that guy. It's no longer collecting. And I fear that you're going to lose people who otherwise would have stayed in the hobby.
You got to give
right? You got to give them something, right? You got to give guys some kind of value in it. And that stretches all the way up to the $1,000 Prism boxes. You know what I mean? Well, who's doing that? Who's buying $1,000 Prism box? Look, there's obviously a market for it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be selling for those prices. But that does confound me. I guess there is a price point for everyone, just like there's a PSA grade for everyone. Somebody would tell me stick to Revolution, Matt. Stick to where we are. But hey, look, it is what it is. Price card. I'm gonna tell you, yeah, I'll go with Pokemon for you because I know you're a Pokemon guy. I'm shocked at the PSA 10 Charizard price. I am shocked that it is as high as it is. I guess I can understand it because the last couple that have been purchased have been bought by YouTube celebrities, musicians, rappers, famous people who $250,000 is not the same to them as it is to you or I who would be collecting, or it's not the same to the vast majority of people. But that card was readily available last year. It's run in the same kind of circle price wise as your comparison for it, the Michael Jordan 86 Fleer card. And I know there's more Jordans out there. I think we just got the 317th graded recently. I saw Mr. Mint on both Instagram and Twitter. Hi, Mr. Mint. Post one with a 5 million PSA slab on it. I'm pretty sure that was the number 317. He might have the most recent one graded. And there's only 120 or so of the Charizard. So that, I guess, sort of explains it. But there's probably way more demand for Jordan than there is out there for Charizard. That surprises me because it is a huge, huge, huge jump from what was last year a $40,000 or $45,000 card on eBay. There was an ugly one with a chip on the back for $36,000 that nobody wanted to touch for a while. But that card was an eighth of what it is now, and we've seen other cards go up that much, but not cards that expensive, not cards that iconic, and not cards that had 100 and something of out there. That surprises me. I'm not saying it's not worth that money. I think maybe the flip side to this is maybe the Jordan 86 Fleer is underpriced at 100 and change, and hasn't gone up the way that the Charizard has. But I've done this because I've thought to myself, oh, am I going to ever buy that Charizard card? Am I ever going to get that in my collection for my set? And I say to myself, I can go out there and buy a Michael Jordan PSA 10 rookie card and a Mickey Mantle 52 tops in seven? PSA 7, or I could buy one Charizard. And to me, that's the definition of confounding, my friend. Yeah.
I'm going to one-up you.
Go ahead.
Bol Silver just sold for $360. He does not play. Devontae Graham is the leading point guard and the best player on the Charlotte Hornets. And his Prism Silver, which is inevitably a lower pop as well, is less than Bol.
And guys, when you look at Devontae Graham Silver Pop, take 53 right off the top, because that's 53 that is not an available pop. That's 53 that stays in the basement and is never getting sold.
One up. My Kareem is Kareem.
Listen, when you're gonna go out there and compare, nobody's really measuring their stack of Devontae Grahams. Most people make fun of me for buying into Devontae Graham, but hey, this is what it is.
That's an example, but that's across the board. That's across the board. A guy with a track record of success versus a guy that's.
Listen, prospecting is a real thing. I mean that, and you have to say that prospecting. It is. People think.
That's bad.
I've actually researched Bol. I watched a video of him recently doing a training with his team where they put the 1, 2, 3 and the 4, 5, 6 on and it looks like he has a hard time jumping. But by the same token, him having a hard time jumping is almost touching the top of the backboard, because he's huge. And the comments on there is just wait for this guy to put on some muscle. Just wait to see how athletic and how great he is when he puts on some muscle.
How long do you want me to wait?
And that's the flip side, right? What if he doesn't?
I'll come back to that Twitter post before I have to just wait. J Cardboard Dreams. Dude, there's a really good tip. If you are listening, go back and re-listen to that little segment and apply that across the board. You could find that opportunity on a variety of players. People are just speculating. Cardboard Dreams. Who doesn't receive the love they deserve in vintage basketball? Why? I personally feel like I don't see as much love for Knicks legends like Clyde, Earl the Pearl, Willis Reed. It's some amazing nicknames back in the day. Clyde the Glide,
Clyde the Glide, Earl the Pearl,
Iceman George Gervin.
It's funny. I might actually have gone with Iceman George Gervin. Who does it from a vintage perspective? And this is, I'm going to show you my age on this, and whether or not you consider it vintage. I don't think Dominique Wilkins 86 Fleer gets the love that it deserves. Dominique would have been talked about as one of the greatest players in basketball if he didn't happen to play at the same time as Michael Jordan. He's one of those guys. He's all the love Kevin Durant gets right now. Different type of player, obviously, but that's like the Durant to the LeBron. You know what I mean? Like top player of all time, you name it. At that time, he was going to throw down a dunk on you and put you on a poster. He would play a lot better now, by the way, because he never really learned the jump shot. Really, he was just all human highlight reel, right? That was his actual nickname. And if you have not, take a look at some video footage of the dunk competitions from 85 to 90, where Jordan and Dominique go head to head, just dunk after dunk after dunk. And it's just impressive what he was able to do. And he was top guy in the league. Crazy stuff. But here's the thing, and I don't have it right in front of me, but for whatever reason, his 86 Fleer is a difficult card to grade. I don't think there are 100 of them in PSA 10 when you compare it to 317 of the Michael Jordan. There's more Hakeems, there's more Barkleys, there's more Ewings, and those guys are all great. I think Neek was better. And he was basically like the 2 to Jordan. Scoring wise, he averaged close to Jordan every year. I remember pulling, scoring leader cards. And the scoring leader cards were always Jordan, Dominique Wilkins, and then eventually Karl Malone. Those were the guys, which, talk about a name there. And also just, if you guys haven't heard it, I don't even know if it's public out there. Gary V did a Zoom about the hobby maybe 2 months ago, maybe a month and a half ago. I forget when it was. And he was talking about Dominique Wilkins and doing like an audio podcast, like a 5-episode thing about Dominique Wilkins, sort of Last Dancey, right? I don't know if it's still going to happen. I don't know if it's going to be, produced. I don't know what the story is, but something like that, will add to the love a player like Dominique gets. He would be one of the guys that I would invest in, and you don't have to buy his PSA 10 because it's expensive, but a PSA 9 or a PSA 8 is attainable in that 86 Fleer set. It's an iconic card and an iconic set. Other guys, if you want me to go back further, I know he gets a lot of love. Dr. J's 1972 rookie card does not get the love that it should. I'm not telling you to go out there and buy a PSA 9, but PSA 7s and 8s are attainable, and that's a great card. That guy was Jordan before Jordan. If you're looking for, let's see, who else doesn't get the love in vintage? I would not go out and buy these guys because, besides Dr. J, I would not go out and buy guys like Moses Malone, who doesn't get the love he deserves, or George Gervin, who you mentioned, who doesn't get the love he deserves. And here's why, guys. All right. Andrew just answered this question without even reading the question. He answered the question and answering the question before. People will buy Bol Bol before they buy Moses Malone, because other than my son, so watch it, George Gervin. I said, "What's George Gervin's nickname?" Did you hear him? You hear what he said? What's George Gervin's nickname?
Iceman.
And what did he do? What kind of shot? What was he known for?
Finger roll.
Finger roll. Okay, so he's nuts, right? So like, I'm old, and I want to make sure that there are children out there who actually know this stuff, right? So Who else did a finger roll in the 90s? And he's a very unappreciated player on the Eddie Jones. Okay, there you go. Go check some Eddie Jones footage. Yeah. So anyway,
he does it from the 3-point line.
That's right. He did one, and that's a cool YouTube video.
Finger roll anymore.
Finger roll from the 3-point line. No one even does it. But here's the point that I'm trying to make. Right? People would rather put their money in Bobo because Bobo is somebody you can watch now, somebody you can bet on, and go back to the Lefko episode, right? And we have a video clip on our site of Adam Lefko with us, and it's an important moment, the end of it, right, where he goes and he does that Lefko kind of smile into the camera and says, "That's my guy," right? Hobby, fantasy, betting, it all kind of dovetails. It all goes together, right? And you can't draft Moses Malone on your fantasy team this year, right? And you can't turn on a live game and see that Moses Malone's going to drop 50. He already did it. And he was one of the greatest players to ever play the game when he played. But you lose something. This was the problem with vintage. And vintage is great, and I have more vintage that I know what to do with. And some of those guys do deserve more love. And you've seen this year, 2020 has been an incredible year in the hobby because you've seen attention swing from modern to vintage to art to Pokemon to basketball to football. I mean, you name it. It's just, it's been a lot of momentum shifts and swings. But I think what will carry the hobby going forward and where you'll see a lot of the money being put is modern, right? And it is, I'm able to turn the television on, and this year I'm going to watch my investment in Trey when he takes the next step and maybe brings his team into the playoffs this year. That's what people want to watch more. So Jay, I hope I answered your question. It's difficult. Oh, Ian thinks Trey's going to suck. So it's difficult to tell you.
But I do think the gap between Trey and Luka will take a little bit of a widen this year.
You think it's going to widen?
Yeah. While we were talking, I did a really fun little exercise because the person that I think is severely underrated, he might not be vintage, is Allen Iverson. I think he's the most underrated player of all time. And what I did was I searched his stats by 100 possessions. Okay, because games, there's less possessions back then. People don't remember. So let me tell you, Kevin Durant, per 100 possessions, let me read you his stats. He averages, let me see, per 100 possessions, 34 points a game on average, okay? Let me see. 29, 33, or he had 39, 36, 37, 37, 41, 37, 39, 36. Iverson, every single year was above 35 points, as high as 39.7 points a game per 100 possessions. The guy was year after year after year after year.
Wow.
Yeah, insanity. One of the best scorers of all time.
I liked Iverson, but you know what? Iverson is a cautionary tale for people who are in the hobby now, and I'm glad you brought him up. And I'll throw another name out there who's sort of like Iverson, Vince Carter. People love Vince Carter, and Vince Carter was athletic, and he had great numbers, and he has those highlight reel dunks. And he was one of the greatest players to play during the time that he was playing. But
Iverson do this in a regular game?
What? I'm sure seeing the dunks. Yeah, it was a great dunk. But here's the deal: neither of them won the big one, and that does matter. Mm-hmm. And as good as they were, they people are they don't have the attention, like you said, of the hobby, and maybe that'll change. But the cautionary tale that's there for folks is you're spending all your money right now. I'm not even going to say bowl. I'm going to say people are spending all their money on, let's see. How about who's somebody who's really, really good? Who's somebody right now who's really, really, not Tyler Hero, he's still young, but somebody who's really, Tyler Hero is one, but people are spending their money right now on, I don't know, let's call it Bradley Beal, right? He's good. Tyler Hero, these guys, they're good. They score a lot of points, right? They got Jimmy Butler, right? You put your money in Jimmy Butler, right? Those guys may end up being significantly less players than Allen Iverson or Vince Carter or Ray Allen or Gary Payton or Karl Malone or any of these guys that just
super successful career. That's a really good measure stick.
And still be great players, right? And nothing wrong with the careers of any of those guys. I mean, Karl Malone's the top scorer, of all time, right? He's points galore, right? But nobody wants their cards. I don't want to say nobody wants their cards, but if you don't walk into a card show right now in Dallas this weekend, and hopefully you guys are listening to this, all the massive amount of folks who are in Dallas, we're not going to get a show and people are going to run in there and say, oh, where's all your Karl Malone cards? Where's all your Ray Allen cards? Where's all your, so just be careful with what you're doing with your card money now. People forget that the people who were the top 5 or 10 players in the NBA 10 or 15 years ago are the people who are forgotten now. And people from a hobby perspective that people don't really buy. So I don't know. We can talk about vintage. We can do a whole episode on vintage stuff.
I'll say, a lot of good quotes in life, they have some scientific backing. So out of sight, out of mind, it's a common quote, but it actually has scientific backing. So like in your brain, you have this thing, it's called your RAS, your reticular activating system. It's that thing, when you buy a new car, you start seeing that car everywhere.
Yes.
But it filters out what you don't want, what you're not thinking about, what you're not focused on. Well, right now, everyone's focused on Prism, Modern. And why you're out of sight, out of mind. Karl Malone doesn't even get into the brain to go onto eBay and possibly search. He's not in it. Now, I think that's a really important lesson there. Oliver asks, how do you keep track of your cards? Any tools out there you like?
Well, I mean, we had Chris Hodge on with Card Ladder, and we have that, and Luca Nation. I will still bother Chris Hodge if you're listening to this to try to get you guys a Luca Nation discount on that or some way to do it. I'll message him again after this. I think he's got a great tool. But how do I keep track of my cards, right? So there's no right or wrong way. It depends on how disciplined you want to be with it. It depends how big your collection is. But mine is a good old-fashioned Excel spreadsheet. I got everything in there. I got an Excel spreadsheet by year.
You remember your columns and rows? Like they give people a little...
So the first one is what the card is, year of the card, blah, blah, blah. The second column on it is the price that I paid for it. And I put a little comment in there if there's additional stuff on there. Like if I'm sending you the PWC Vault, I'm putting on plus 1.5% for the Vault charges. You name it. It's all in there. And then I put in the date that I purchased it, the day that I bought it. And the next column is where I bought it. If it's eBay, put the eBay seller on it. If it's off eBay, I put it in Instagram, blah, 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 how much I paid for it, the whole deal. And then there's a column on it for sale. So if I end up selling the card, I know how much I sold it for. It makes taxes easy. It makes everything easier. You go back and say, okay, this is my basis in the card. This is what I paid for it. This is what I get. This is how much I sell it for. And that's important also to keep track of because you're eventually going to try to sell the card or trade the card. And you want to know how much you have in it. And it might not be for a year. It might not be for 2 years or 3 or 4. I also, though, I keep separate spreadsheets for PSA submissions. If I'm going to go crazy on base cards, I went nuts on 2012 Prism a year and a half ago, and I bought hundreds of 2012 Prism cards. I logged every one of them in. And then at the bottom, I totaled it up, how much I spent on it, and then I added in how much the PSA charges were, and I was into 2012 Prism. I have a one spreadsheet for 2012. I have a 2012 Prism spreadsheet, and I was into all hockey, basketball, football, baseball, and I wound up spending like $6,000 on 2012 Prism, inclusive of all of the fees, and we're talking about hundreds of cards being graded. So that most of it was the fees, believe it or not, because the cards themselves were like $3 or less for every single card. But ultimately, I started selling those off, and on the right side of the spreadsheet, I would put the tally of how much I sold each one of the cards for, and eventually, it got to where I was over the 6,000. So I finally I could see that the 2012 experiment, like I call it 2012 Prism experiment, was now profitable, and how much inventory I had left, and I still had 400 cards left in PSA in various grades, and raw cards and whatnot. So I like doing that because it first of all, it grounds you, and second of all, it shows that the time you're putting in, your grading, your selling, your eBay sales, that you're actually able to make some money on it, right? You're able to quantify it, and like you said, that's a win. I will always talk about my 2012 Prism as a win because I made several 100% on those. So, and it's great to track it. It's great to go back in there and say, this is the story, and vice versa. Be honest with yourself because you're going to track some things that you're going to lose on. Not everything's going to be a winner. You're going to buy a lot of 20, you're going to grade them, and you get back a bunch of 9s. You get back some 8s. Hell, you get back a 5. Andrew and I both got them recently. Must have been one angry grader.
It doesn't bother me because I track it and I know net it plays out.
Net it plays out. Yep.
You've been super helpful. You help us track daily plays. You help us do a lot of things. If there's someone out there listening to this and wants to work on a project with me, I think it'll take 5-6 hours. Let's work and create a template for tracking, and then we'll open it up for the rest of the community. Only take
Great idea. The
Luca
Nation tracking device. We love it. It's a great idea.
I'll build it. Reach out to me. I'll build it in Excel. We'll make it in template form, and then we'll open it up so others who need it could just access it and use it.
And by the way, I'm going to piggyback on that with 2 things. Number one, reach out to Andrew or on our Luca Tiger. Any ideas you have, an idea for an episode, an idea in the hobby, something that you do that makes stuff easy. We've gotten some great suggestions from Luca Nation, from our listeners, from people who interact with us. Some of them we're going to implement. And also, I do want to say we had a guest episode yesterday, Mr. Jimmy Bro from Twitter, Jimmy Guns. And I imagine we're going to have some people listening for the first time today because, we've had a lot of listens on that episode, and we've had a bunch of people who I'm sure are followers of Jimmy or part of his, sports card network who have started following us on Twitter. Our Twitter account doubled from yesterday to today, our amount of followers. If you don't follow us there, please. We have not made a real effort to kind of grow our Twitter following, but go right ahead and follow us there. We're going to do giveaways on Twitter that we don't do on Instagram. We're going to do, Twitter only stuff. I got a giveaway going now. Jimmy's actually going to give away an Abreu Prism PSA 10 rookie in his next gun show. Same thing, YouTube. We've got a bunch of YouTube followers from most likely from Jimmy's connection. So thank you guys. And, a welcome to Luca Nation to all of you who this might be the first time you're listening because you just subscribed, you just followed, and you just joined us because you heard us talking to Jimmy Guns yesterday, Mr. Jimmy Bro. So I do have to take a moment there to welcome you new listeners and to thank everybody who shares us with a new listener, shares us with somebody who they think could use a workout podcast or a commute podcast or, thinks that you're getting some value out of this. So, we appreciate each and every one of you. You got any other questions for me?
You want to touch on Topps Now soccer cards? Keep an eye out for rookies. Koff Star brought that up. I think that's a great point.
Sure. I'm not a huge soccer guy, right? So I saw it coming up. I knew that it was, it was going to be big. I knew people were hanging their hat on it because it was going to be a new thing. It was going to be. It's the biggest growing sport. It's global. It's it's all that other fun stuff, right? But I know that recently Topps Now has started putting soccer cards out there for rookies that don't have cards. I think Caden Clark was the one that everybody was talking about. So I guess the U.S. national team's got some players that are going to be pretty good. We talked about Reyna. And I guess this Kid Clark is somebody who's out there. I would say be a little careful with Topps Now. One of the picks I gave in an episode was wow, sounds like the kids are fighting up there. Was Mason Greenwood, Topps Now rookie. And let me go see if there's blood drawn in that one. Wow, I don't know. I put my money on my daughter. But in any event,
Ian has been happy with Lee all day. He's like, she's just not athletic.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what the story is, but there's gonna be a brawl in my house in a second. But so here's the fun, right? I worry about the Topps Now stuff. They're great to buy. They're great to flip because that's the person's rookie card. It's the first card with the RC shield on. I think Mason Greenwood's going to be great. He's had some hiccups this year. I think this kid Clark is going to be pretty good. And right now there are no other cards out of him. But in February and March of this coming year, there's going to be the next Bundesliga one, which some of these guys won't be in. But there's also going to be the next UEFA Topps Chrome release. And I worry that when a Prism release or a Topps Chrome release or a Panini release, and when these releases come out of mainstream of these guys pack pulled rookie cards, whether or not the Topps Now card kind of fades. So I like it as a cool play. I like it as a cool flip. because this kid Clark doesn't have any cards. You buy it now and sell it for, double what you're paying for it. That's fine. But I don't know about its long-term, value.
I think I can't remember Nick. I think it was the Nick episode. He had a really good line, and it made me understand soccer a little better. It's way more similar to MLB than NBA and NFL. There's way more prospecting in that game than it is buying the stars. We'll wrap up with this. Cage, you've been great today, man, and I know you got to go take care of that.
They seem to be they seem to be calming down, so I think we're all right.
I'll ask you, what was your favorite ever boxing match?
My favorite boxing match.
You got some of the great ones: Rumble in the Jungle, Mike Tyson.
No, mine's Tyson Holmes, Larry Holmes, because it was basically like Tyson ending the career of one of the greats.
What? Holmes?
Yeah, Holmes. What's up, Holmes? No, but that was like Tyson. Okay, this is peak performance for a boxer. Some people would say that Holmes was beaten before he even got into the ring. Tyson marching down, to the ring before the fight. Psychologically would beat you because you knew you were going to get your ass kicked. And if you haven't watched that fight, you got to watch that. But my favorite boxing match, you got to go back to Hearns Hagler, first round. So if you have not watched this fight, go onto YouTube and pull up just the first round. It's 3 minutes that will change your life. And look, you're looking at me like you're crazy, but when we're finished with this episode,
before, so I know
I want you to watch this. It is a crazy first. It might be the best first round that's ever been fought in combat sports. Hearns Hagler, take a look at it. It is a back and forth, and what's amazing about it is that both of the guys land amazing shots, but at the end of the round, you don't know who won. Normally, when there's that much punishment being doled out in a boxing match, you're like, okay, well, that was Hagler's round or that was Hearns' round. But no, it's a back and forth battle for 3 minutes, and you're like, wow, look at this. That was, they weren't really boxing. They were just standing there and punching each other.
It's a schoolyard fight that you go back and now it's English class at 1:30 p.m.
Yeah, so guys, if you want a little treat, right? Because I'm sure the vast majority of people listening to this have not seen that. Just put into YouTube, Hearns Hagler, first round. Watch the video. Take a couple minutes.
2 questions. I'm going to ask you my follow-up one because I think you're going to go long-winded on it.
Mm-hmm.
I hear the Office soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, guys, you need to understand, without great people, nothing is possible. And this is a question from Jordan Ferrone. And before we get into it, Jordan has been amazing, man. It's been a blessing. And Cage, you could touch on this too if you want. He's the man that's helping us clip and release content that you guys really love, right? Because when I was making graphics, that's great. But Jordan is doing an amazing job. He's clipping a ton of content. And one of the questions was, right above it, when is Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze going to release a video component on YouTube? This isn't Jordan's question. It's actually right above Jordan's question. Cage, you want to touch on that? That's from Ryan Bitter.
All right, Ryan. Well, I mean, listen, we've talked about YouTube for quite some time. And, I think we have the right pieces in place for it. Jordan recently joined us. And I'm sure you guys have seen an uptick in the quality of content that we've been putting out recently. Great video clips, a lot better stories. Our stuff is on YouTube. We have tried to, devote the majority of our time to putting out this podcast, giving you guys something to listen to and wait to hear every day. You have this content, you can count on us. We're here. And we've done that now for next week will be 4 months. We'll do a nice little celebration, 4 months. 130 episodes or so. But we recently, discussed putting out there YouTube, Twitter. Mr. Jimmy Guns, our friend yesterday, we're going to expand on Twitter. Like he has a following on Twitter as well. And YouTube, it's there. You can find us on YouTube, Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze. But the stuff that's there is just, I'd call it placeholder stuff right now. And Jordan has, been very, very helpful to us already. And I know we're gonna start to get the content out there. Our Gary video is up there. We'll start to get some more stuff out there. So we'll do it, Ryan. I promise. You'll see it soon. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe, right? I mean, I think we got almost 100 subscribers on there. Go ahead.
What is the Jordan Ferrone asked? What And guys, go follow Jordan. Jordan period FERRONE. What is the best decision you ever made in the hobby? What's the biggest L you've ever taken?
Oh, wow.
Page
Let's
went
see.
off video for this one. He's back.
Nah, I had the battery. It was it's 20%. Your battery's low, so it killed me there. Wow, the best decision and the worst decision in the hobby.
You want me to rock?
What'd you say?
I'll tell him about my biggest L in the hobby.
Go ahead.
So I wanted to buy a LeBron Topps Chrome card, the one I'm auctioning, and it's an expensive card. And I got impatient, I got naive, and I got young, and I wanted to sell a card, a Michael Jordan PSA 8, to pay for that, right? I sold the card. I sold the card to a guy out of Australia. He asked me to ship it to an address that wasn't in Australia. I said, I'll do it if it gets vouchers. Again, desperation was at play because what I wanted to do was use the PayPal money to go and finalize the purchase of the LeBron Chrome that I set up. Here's where it got funky. He didn't have vouchers. He was a scammer. And his entire vision was to scam me and then claim that the item was never received. I caught that, but I received a lot of backlash and a lot of negative press. And what I learned from that situation is be patient and don't be desperate. Don't rush into things. Don't rush into business deals. Just because you're selling and there's money coming into your account, not all money is created equal. And it's really, really important to know who you're doing business with.
I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so the best decision I ever made in the hobby
was to not make it about myself and to make it about others.
So yeah, it's 100% right, and I'll take it two ways. So one, this year, especially with the craziness of 2020, every Friday I open something with my son. All right, so when I finish this, I'm gonna open up a Topps Chrome Blaster and some other stuff. Every Friday this year, we've opened something, and that makes it something that I have with him, and I'm passing on the hobby to the next generation of people who are going to collect, keep this thing going, but broader. It's the interaction with Luca Nation that's doing this. This is clearly the biggest W that I've had in my collecting decades. Because whether people want to admit this or not, the collecting, a good chunk of it is that community. Some of it's showing off your cards. Some of it's looking at what other people are showing off. Some of it is, collectively working towards an end. I remember when I did UFC cards, there was a set in 2011 called Moment of Truth, and there was a Ruby parallel. The base set was 100 and something, 200 cards maybe, and the base parallel was out of 8 Ruby. It was a red bordered, and I decided that I had opened so much of the product that I was going to make the whole set out of 8, right? And everyone who collected knew that I was doing this. So some people ripped me off because they had a card that I knew, but I remember I needed Damasio Page. Was the last card I needed, right? Go look this guy up. Fighter, UFC, Damasio, if you happen to be listening. You were the last one that I needed. And I remember I looked for months before finally somebody sent me a message and said, this guy's looking for you. He knows you need the card. He wants to give it to you for free, right? So it's a collective, right? It's a community. But we're, if it's your first time listening to this, go ahead and send us a message. Send us a message and say, today was the first time that I listened to your episode, and you said to send me a message. And guess what's going to happen? We're going to respond to you. Send it to the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze on Twitter. Send it, send a DM, send it on Instagram, wherever it is that you want to do it. And, tell us if there's anything we can help you with in the hobby. Because that, believe it or not, that's what this is all about. So my W is sharing with my son, sharing with you, Andrew, sharing with Luga Nation. Everybody who's asking these questions. That's the big W. For card specifics, it was buying Pokemon cards all last year. Buying first edition Pokemon cards that have now gone crazy. Because the multiples on those from what I paid for them and what they are selling for now it's insanity. The biggest L. I have a lot of regrets of stuff that I sold too soon, and Andrew hates that stuff, right? But I mean, biggest L, I will make you guys laugh because when you hear this, you'll realize I sold more than one. Let's call it multiple PSA 10 Luca Prism rookies, PSA 10 for $65 last summer. $65 each. The one that's selling now for what, $1,300, $1,400, $1,500. I sold them $65 because at the time the raws were $12, $15 raw. So I was like, all right, I graded this. I sent them in. I got 2 10s. Send them. I got 4 10s. I'll sell them, and I turned the money back into raw ones, and probably sold them. But yeah, I mean, thinking back, I mean, that's like a, when that car was at its peak at $2,000, was that a 30x, year over year? So, that was a pretty big L. So it is what it is. But I can't look at it that way because I'm sure if I go back into the spreadsheets and I realize what I bought the same day that I sold those cards, that it was, something else. There was something else that I turned into some other more money. And while I might not have done 30x on it, I'm sure, I did fine. So, be happy for your W's and have a short memory when it comes to your L's. They're gonna weigh you down, man. There's your philosophy, right? That's an Andrewism.
Today, Fauci came out and said some nonsense about Americans need to follow the rules. What do you think happening with sports cards? This is so speculative, so it's okay.
So I got to tell you, right? I was shocked the first time around what happened with sports cards, how they blew up. I think it's going to be. I think sports cards are almost COVID proof. And let me explain. Right, if we get into a lockdown scenario, I think the same thing's going to happen again. I think people are home, and this community that's online with Instagram and Twitter and buying boxes, and doing box breaks, and being able to do it from your own home is gonna thrive again. If it opens back up, so there's a show in Dallas this weekend that is like an every other month show. It's nothing major. It's not a national. It's not anything nuts. I mean, it's a good show, but I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are going to it, right? Because it's open and because it's a show, and everybody hates to wear a mask and the whole deal. But when this lifts, when the fog of COVID lifts, and people are able to actually interact again, I think it's going to explode even more. I think people are going to be thrilled to go to shows. I think card shows are going to be different. I think the national, when they finally have it again, it's going to be bigger than it ever was because there are more players. There are more side businesses, from group submissions to podcasts to who knows. I mean, I think the hobby it's still in its early phase, and I don't think that this disease, whatever you may think about it, is going to hold this hobby down.
Let's think about it this way. Breaking is sort of the beginning, the first base of the hobby. Breaking goes up. People want to break and gamble more when they're just stuck at home all day.
Mm-hmm.
They'll find the money where to gamble. I promise you.
Well, they'll find it on what they were spending on commuting to work, or what they were spending on other things that they can't do, movies and going out to eat and all that other stuff. So,
But I will say, this is how I see it. There will be really good deals if you have the cash to capitalize. There will be more variance.
That's fair.
More sales that fuck, I have no money and I need to sell my $1,000 collection for $700 or $600 because I need to make bills tomorrow. That's the sad reality of life. And if you could be ready for those, there's going to be some good deals. Speaking of deals, give Steve Harmon a follow, man. This guy throws out delicious deals day after day after day. The other day, he had a Luka Hoops and a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Hoops card, PSA 10, both for $300. Today, he has 4 Devontae Grahams for $25. The Prism shipped for $25. Sportrepreneur. Love the handle.
Spell it out. So it's a combination of sports and entrepreneur, right? So it's Sportrepreneur, like SPORTREPRENEUR 24. Steve Harmon. And if that spelling didn't help you guys, he's got a picture of Dirk Nowitzki saluting with a blue Dallas jersey on. We love Steve.
Great guy. Great freaking
dude. Is this too long? I don't want to be, I don't want to be too long for people here. Are we at the end of our questions?
We're cutting it now. We're done.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Lucas, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.